Back to another video. In this video, I want to talk about the exoteric and the esoteric forms of prayer. Now, there is obviously something that we see cultures and traditions do, that is, they pray. Now, the outward prayer in a community hall or in a mosque or a temple is beneficial up to a certain extent. That is, you can go and remind yourself that your true nature is consciousness for a few moments by performing this act of prayer. But eventually you will have to realize or understand that the esoteric form of prayer is something that is happening continuously. Now, establishing yourself in your true nature can help you understand what the esoteric form of prayer is. The prayer that is happening all the time is you existing. And whenever you go back to your true nature, it is a form of prayer. Of course, we see that there are different forms of prayer, exoteric forms of prayer adopted by different religions, and we see that every tradition has their own form of prayer. We see that the Muslims pray differently from the Jews, and the Christians pray differently from the Hindus. The Hindus pray differently from the Buddhists. So then these forms are different in appearances, but the thing that is happening to a person when he or she is praying is the same. When he or she is praying, he is establishing himself in his true nature. When you go to a mosque or a temple, what happens is your true nature that is inside you glimpses itself for a moment. It reminds itself that it is not the mind, not the functional mind, not the psychological mind, but it is the soul. Now, conflict among different traditions and different religions arise due to these different forms of exoteric prayer, and also due to due to false beliefs that stem from the true nature. Now, when a person is established in consciousness, he starts to look at the world at through his eyes, and he starts to look at consciousness first and matter second. So, since the consciousness is something that is unseen, a person tends to believe in a lot of things that are in the form of unseen. That is, he starts to remove the line or blend the line between imagination and reality. Now, I have a tremendous respect for science because it makes us understand the difference between reality and imagination. Now, if you see that a person who is trained in science and has also believes that consciousness is his true nature, then he is able to discern between the imaginative reality that usually people who aren't trained in science, people who are religious, fall prey to. They think that Satan is actually a being. They think that there are beings of different things. But if you look at the world by considering evolution, also by considering that God has given us eyes and ears to see only the materialistic things, then only the sight and only the hearing is enough to protect ourselves. And when we understand this, we can only understand this due to the contribution of Darwin. That is why a mind needs to be trained in rationality. So, so when it is trained in rationality, it is able to judge between the imaginative reality, the reality that separates different religions, that separates different spiritual traditions, that separates hallucination from actuality. Now, consciousness is the substratum of the universe, but that doesn't mean that the imaginative reality has some truth to it. A person who is established in consciousness is able to look at the world in two directions, and in two radical directions that are suggested by schools like the Advaita Vedanta and Buddhism. So the Buddhism looks at the world through the eyes of Shunyata, that everything is nothing. And Advaita says that everything is part of something that is called Brahman. And these are two completely radical views. And what happens when you actually see the truth of this is that when everything is negated, then it leaves no room for imaginative reality or the materialistic reality. Similarly, when you believe in Advaita, then also it doesn't leave any room for the imaginative reality and the materialistic reality. So a Buddhist negates both rationality and irrationality, the imaginative and the actual. And the Advaitin accepts both as existence, but as Maya, as a dream. And this is the highest form, the highest realization that is to be had here. People who are in between create misconceptions. People who think that the actual reality is the reality create misconceptions with the people who think that the imaginative reality is the reality. A person who is established in his true self is the one who is actually praying. And this form of prayer is the true esoteric form of prayer. All the outer forms of prayer create havoc. They create distinctions. Karl Marx famously said that religions are the opiate of the masses. And in a way, he was right. Because when you pray, you are getting a boost. You are getting a jolt of your true nature. But you are leaving it behind when you go back to your world. forgetting about it. Then you are going back again and getting a jolt of your true nature again. You are thinking that it is due to your outward form of prayer. In fact, it was your true nature, realizing your true nature. So, at some point in your life and in your spiritual journey, you'll actually have to drop all the exoteric form of prayer, no matter how hard it may be. It can be harder than dropping an addiction. It can be harder than dropping drugs, dropping opium. It can be harder because it is so good. It can be harder because society approves it. So then, try to distinguish between esoteric and exoteric forms of prayer. Thank you for watching this video.